Hey Ziad,
Hey Dom, how's it going?
it's going really well. Yourself?
Not too bad. Just trying to get this camera to work.
No worries. I'm also just starting out with everything, and yeah, my first time being a moderator. So hello everyone. Usually Olivia does an amazing job here, but right now she's somewhere in Mexico, probably enjoying her warm weather on the beach. So yeah, we're gonna see her on our next live. And we're still waiting for the wizard. I'm sure he's somewhere here. Nice. Okay, not. Hey, Wiz.
Hey guys, wait, let me turn on my. How are you guys doing?
I think we're all good now. Yeah, we're doing really good. Yourself?
For some reason.
Yeah, good. Nice to be here again.
Nice. Yeah. I'm glad that we're all here. Again, without Olivia, she will be back next time. So yeah, right now. I'm the moderator. So yeah, we're here again, 12:30 Eastern time, and by the way, I can hear echo on somebody's phone. Not sure why. Yeah, no, it's better. Maybe it was you, yeah. Cool. No worries. And yeah, today's topic is gonna be programming languages. So we're gonna discuss like what programming languages we use, get a bit more into details with them, how to find your language, what was our way in finding our languages, uh, and yeah, we're definitely gonna answer a lot of your questions. So feel free to ask questions in comments because we are here to answer them. And we're gonna start with our first question of the day, afternoon, night, whatever location you are in. And first question is, what programming languages do you use? And let's start with Ziad.
Yeah, I mostly use like JavaScript for the most part, and that's like mostly at work. It'll be like a combination of TypeScript and JavaScript, and the idea is that I do a lot of web development, to be honest. So like it includes React for the most part, and like I've used some like Angular before, and that's mostly JavaScript. So like for the most part, I'll use JavaScript as the primary programming language. On the back end, I'll use a lot of Python. So for, like if I'm gonna do an interview and I were to choose a programming language, it would definitely be JavaScript.
Nice. Thanks a lot, Ziad. What about you, Luis?
Yeah, for me it's not really common because I learned C sharp first, and that was my first programming language. So it's kind of like it's a hybrid. I would describe it as a hybrid language. It's functional and object oriented. So during the learning process, at some point there was the shift where it spoke less about like functions and went more over to objects and classes, which I was totally confused about that. I couldn't really grasp the concept of objects and classes in the beginning. But yeah, on C sharp you have .NET, which is a framework, and C sharp is one of the languages you can use to program in .NET. That can be used for web development as well. But I think there are, as of right now, I think it's best to just go with JavaScript because of React, but for web development at least. But the reason why if I go back to the original question, what language I used, the reason why I was more in C sharp was for game development in Unity. That's the reason why I got started with it. And then as I went on, I also figured that found out you can use it for web development. Yeah, the language that's the my main language that I had used in the past. Afterwards, I learned Python as well, which came pretty easy, honestly, because the syntax compared to C sharp, at least C sharp has a syntax similar to JS, but yeah, the languages that followed after that, like JavaScript, for example, I learned some JavaScript and it came pretty easy. So yeah, that's a language I have used in the past, and yeah, HTML and CSS, but they're not programming languages, so you can't. Or yeah, we can. It's a different discussion, but yeah, those that's the my main language that I use.
Nice. Thanks a lot, Wiz. Great language choices. And Ramon, thanks for your comment that you love our content. Yeah, we're trying hard, and we're pushing a lot of content every day. I think we launch like 5 videos around these topics on our account. So feel free to follow our account because there's just loads of great things if you want to break into tech. Like we cover, I would say, all the topics you need to break into tech.
Yeah. Also, thank
But
you
yeah,
for the donation. Someone donated, so thank you for that. Remember, you can always donate when we answer questions or along with your questions. Thank you.
yeah, thanks a lot for that. We love gifts. And yeah, and same question for me. So. Which programming languages I use. My primary language is JavaScript, although it hasn't started with JavaScript. I've been using JavaScript at the moment for like 5, 6 years, something like that, professionally, and I just love it. I love the flexibility and ability to use it everywhere. So it is my favorite language at the moment. I love it. But I actually started with C. C is quite a low-level language. I started using it while I was studying computer science, and it's interesting because some stuff that other languages have built in for you, with C you need to build everything. You need to take care of memory allocations, of pointers, of like so many low-level things. So you have more control over the machine, but it depends like for which purpose you need it. It's definitely not a great entry level language for uh, it's not a great entry level language for getting your first tech job because you probably won't get your first job with C. But it's a really good language to learn. For example, I don't know, in JavaScript, if you ever seen like different arrays, different structures, different I don't know, methods you have on strings, like, I don't know, reversing a string or joining strings. In C, basically, you need to write everything on your own, and you learn how to other programming languages do that in the background, so it's really good for that. Other ones I used are Python a bit, Java. Java is really good for understanding like concept of objective oriented programming. C sharp the same. I'm actually using C sharp a bit now. Love it a lot. Reminds me of TypeScript and really good language also for learning OOP. And yeah, that would kind of be me with my languages. Hello, Ziad. Nice to
Hey,
see you back.
how's it going? I'm not sure what was going on with TikTok.
They booted you.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Tom, I
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
question early because your first language that was C. That was when you were studying computer sciences.
Yeah. So I used it back then, just like for college and some some of my I wouldn't say personal projects. Those were just more like my first lines of code and first functions and stuff like that. So definitely not like huge projects.
Yeah, I think it's a nice. Yeah, it's like you were thrown in the lion's den. I mean, I know that like Python, I believe is built off with C as well, if I'm not mistaken. right? It's a compiler language, and I don't know much about those actually.
Yeah, it's pretty low level. So yeah, like many languages or engines will usually be written in either C or C++ just because they're so low level. But yeah, for some areas you just don't need them. I don't know. For example, for web development, it definitely doesn't make sense to use C. But I don't know, for embedded systems or for OSs or anything where you need to like do extreme optimizations or have a control of memory or everything. Yeah, C is a way to go. And nice, cool. So let's jump into some other questions. So we will become a bit more specific now. Oh, nice. Thanks for the glasses. That was super cool. So let's go into a bit more specifics about some languages. And okay, Wiz, let's start with you. You said C sharp was your first language, so can you tell us a bit more about C sharp?
Yeah, interesting language. So I talk a lot on here about how important it is about doing your research and yeah, going into like knowing what field you would like to go in, etc. So I personally, before I got in tech, I was a chemistry teacher, and I really thought like I missed the enough integration of technology into into the education system, and I thought like some VR, I was thinking along those lines, like virtual reality and like how these can be implemented for education systems. And that's how I ended up at C Sharp. That was originally for game development. But after that, I got into more web development. But yeah, C Sharp was the syntax in some senses, it's similar to JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, it's a pretty easy language to learn. If you know have had experience with object-oriented programming, it can also be easy to learn. If you have zero experience with that, like I did, it can be a bit difficult to grasp because the syntax, after some point, it can get a bit complicated with like the classes and all of the concept with instances and all of those things. It can get a bit complex. But I think after you are done with all of that. Of course, you cannot remember every single thing you learn. And yeah, back then when I was learning, I didn't know that it was like the norm for developers to look up questions. I thought that everything that I learned had to stay in my head, which is totally not the case. Like I with syntax especially, there are a lot of things that personally it's a matter of using them over and over again till you remember. And even if you don't, it's okay. But yeah, C sharp was pretty in the beginning when you're like working with functions, it's easier for me. I think some people just naturally lean more towards the one and the other. And yeah, the syntax was, as I said before, it's pretty similar to JavaScript. Um, with C sharp, you can use .NET, the framework, uh, which is it's basically I wouldn't say it's similar to it's you can say it's similar to React in the sense that you can do many things with it in web development. There is I think it's a library called Blazor, which is basically the syntax is a combination of HTML and C sharp and yeah, you can do many things with the language. That's why I chose it actually, because after I was learning, I realized that I learned that you can use .NET for development as well. So that's when I stepped over from, yeah, that's when I went more into the web development route with C Sharp. If I could make a choice, I think I would have still chosen C sharp because after that, as I said, like the the syntax of JavaScript and Python, they were quite easy for me to grasp, and I actually understood what I was doing. So yeah, for me it was a nice language, but I think it depends what type of learner you are also. It was challenging. It wasn't easy, but at the after you're done with it and you go on to the other languages that follow after that, I think it had a lot of influence, and yeah, it made it easier for me at the in the end.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Louise. And yeah, there is actually one comment here that says that C sharp is less messy than Java. I would agree with that. I prefer C sharp. Prefer C sharp over Java. Those Java is still used quite a lot, so it's the third most popular programming language at this moment. But yeah, I agree. C sharp is just like makes more sense to me. Cool. Thanks, Louise.
You're
Let's
welcome.
now ask Ziad about specifics of JavaScript, for example. What can you say about JavaScript?
Yeah. So is this like why I like it or why I use it personally, or specifics from what perspective?
Uh, just anything around JavaScript that
Yeah.
you wanna share with us. Like what can you build with
Mm,
JavaScript, and that would be like
yeah.
use cases that would be a cool thing.
Yeah, what I really like is that lots of modern like web frameworks are built around JavaScript. So like React is, I would say, like the most popular web development framework, like in professional settings as well. So like big companies, they'll build their websites with React, and like because React uses so much JavaScript underneath the hood, like you definitely need like foundational knowledge there. Um, and the really cool thing is that, like, with the introduction of TypeScript, which, if you guys don't know, is like more strictly typed version of JavaScript, so you can catch like errors in your code much more easily. It's just been amazing to me, like how you can build really scalable code with TypeScript when it comes to like web development in particular. And the really cool thing that I like about just JavaScript in general is that like I personally like do like if I'm doing interviews, for example, I saw a question here about that earlier. Is like I'll use JavaScript mainly, just because it's a little bit like it's more loosely typed. There's a lot of like really easy to remember like built-in functions. I know that other languages have those as well, but with JavaScript, it kind of just feels very like smooth and sleek, and you can do things that with other programming languages might take a little bit of time or like might take a little bit of thought at least. But JavaScript, there's pretty much a dot anything for any use case that you would want to do. So yeah, it's just it's a cool language because of its like simplicity, but at the same time, it's really powerful because of how many like how big the community is and how many like open source projects have pretty much been built around it. I also love the fact that you can like really do full stack development with JavaScript. Like a language like Python, for example, is fantastic when it comes to backend development. You can use like Flask or Django or whatnot, but on the front end, like I think there are a few frameworks that use Python, but it's like it's not the most widely used language. Oh, the dog is super cute. But for JavaScript, like you really can go and build like a React application, use like Node.js on the back end and stuff like that, and it'll scale pretty well, and it's very very widely used and has a huge community. So like big companies that are making production level services and products can really use that and like not have any fear for the most part. So yeah, I think that was me nerding out about JavaScript. I think it's a really cool language.
Nice. Thanks a lot, Ziad, for this wonderful explanation. And yeah, I'm gonna answer a question about specifying some language by answering one of the questions in the comments, and that is C essential today? C as a programming language. By the way, we're all aware of your questions, and just feel free to shoot them. We're gonna ask them. Hopefully, we're gonna answer as much as time we have today. But yeah, about C, is C essential language today? I wouldn't say that it's essential, especially if you're like breaking into tech. Then it's not essential. Maybe if you're studying like computer science in college for like 4 years, then probably it makes sense to touch C just because you're getting in depth of any other fields too, so it makes sense. But if you just want to break into tech by, I don't know, self-learning or boot camps or online courses, then in my opinion, it doesn't make a lot of sense to learn C because let's face it, it won't help you to get your first job, and that should be your priority, just to get your first job. But then, when you actually get your job and have some experience there, like year or two, you're slowly becoming a mid-level developer, then it maybe makes sense to start learning a bit about C because you will see, for example, maybe you will use JavaScript and you will use strings, and a lot of those strings methods like string.substring or join or whatever. And you will see that with C, you need to implement them all of your own. Of course, if you don't use external libraries, but many times you need to implement things on your own with C, and it's a good thing for a practice because that's how most of programming languages work in the background. So it's pretty useful to know those things, but you can probably get along even even without it, I would say. And yeah, so that was me about C, and let's now jump into some of the other questions in the comments. The first one is, which programming language do you prefer for backends? Anyone wants to answer that?
I can
Ziad, I can
start.
see you starting.
Yeah, I love Python. I mentioned it earlier, and backend development in itself is a complicated and very like breadth and depth field. Like there's so much to it, and there's so many technologies in it. So like in general, Python I think simplifies all that. It's a simple language, and it's just there again similar to JavaScript. How I said earlier, like when something doesn't have a lot of syntax requirements and they provide a lot of easy ways to do many built-in functions. I think it just like makes you focus on the backend concepts and less about the language itself. So yeah, in general, I definitely prefer Python for backend development.
Yeah, 100% agree with you what you said about focus on backend concepts, not on languages, because yeah, for backend there are many different languages, and it's not like for frontend where basically everything is JavaScript. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, JavaScript is even on backend. But yeah, for backend, focus on backend concepts, 100%. Python is a great choice. It's pretty simple. It's probably the simplest one to start with if you want to do backend, and maybe C sharp is a great choice if you want to learn objected oriented concepts. Yeah, I hope that I said it right. Nice. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ziad. So we have some other questions to answer, and that is a question about ViewFree community and seeing composition API not tidy enough. Yeah, that's a good question. Like ViewFree definitely caused uh, like some of the negative feedback about it. First, that it looks like React hooks. Then it took a while to be updated to ViewFree. I think it took them almost 2 years to get from initial ViewFree release to a stable default version, which is quite a long period. And I would say that Vue 2, I love Vue. I've been using Vue for like 2 years now, and I came when Vue 2 was active. I loved it a lot because it had that options API. Everything was pretty clear there. what are computed properties, what are methods, what's watchers, anything there. And with composition API, you basically have that one set of function. Everything is completely different, and you can make a lot of mess there. That is true, because with Vue 2, everything was really opinionated, and like basically with Vue 2, you couldn't mess a lot of things. Of course, you can always mess up code, but with Vue 2, it just made sense where to put what. While with ViewFree, you can put anything anywhere, and that's why learning curve for ViewFree is a bit bigger. But at the end, you have a much better code reusability, which wasn't possible with Vue 2 because of mixins aren't a great solution for that. So overall, like, you have more flexibility, and you need to learn how to use ViewFree properly. But when you actually learn it, it's a better tool than Vue 2. And in my opinion, it made sense they did that. It was a bit problematic process with upgrades. Many people are still on Vue 2. But Vue team is aware of that, and they said that they learned a lot of lessons from that. They are aware that, like, the update isn't going as as wanted. By the way, that was a pretty cool gift. So yeah, I mean, I could talk about Vue 2 and Vue 3 for hours now, but let's let's go on some other questions. And we have another question: which language do you suggest for a new developer, or for somebody who wants to become a developer? Maybe Luis?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think as a new developer, I think JavaScript is. I think it's the best language you can learn as a new developer. Mainly because of React, and most people do get into tech by learning front end development. So, and yeah, as we have talked about in the past, React, HTML and CSS is not enough, like, to build a web page. It's so I think if you, as a beginner, you learn React, it really will help you a lot in the future. After that, you can learn other languages, but I think it's a nice way to get started. And apart from that, yeah, JavaScript is popular as well. So I think that's the best way to start. Well, best language.
Yeah, I must say that I agree with you, because yeah, you start with JavaScript, you can move to front end. You're probably going to start with front end with JavaScript, but yeah, you can move to backend later, and you will learn a similar syntax that many programming languages have. So yeah, JavaScript is a great start. And cool, we have some other questions. Do you use Firestore database for React projects? And which database do you recommend for React projects?
Yeah, I can take
Uh,
this.
yeah, feel
I can.
free to.
Um, I started with like Firebase's suite of products in general when I was like building side projects, and I think that it's a super awesome way to like get something off the ground really quickly. For anyone else in this live that doesn't know what it is what they call a NoSQL database. And essentially, what that means is that instead of having like rows and columns like a traditional relational database, you have these things called collections and documents. And I'm not going to explain what it is right now because it's like you can go on forever about it. But essentially, it's a lot easier to learn if you don't know anything about databases. So that's why I think like Firestore is a pretty good way to start off, and they have a lot of support for. You mentioned React projects in particular. Like there's a lot of support and a big community around that. So I would definitely recommend it as opposed to like going with an AWS or Google Cloud or something, because those like bigger products are pretty complex, and if you don't really know what you're doing, it can be kind of overwhelming. So I would definitely recommend starting out with Firestore, which is Firebase's database. And then also just checking out like all their other products that they have. They support like authentication, like if you want users to sign in and sign out of your app, like stuff like that. It's all like integrated in one suite, and it's just really good for learning early on. And yeah, I'm just going to answer this other question that we just got because it's about the same thing. So about Firebase, where's safe space to put Firebase configs like API keys and other details. Usually it's like their documentation is pretty good on like where you should store that and how to handle different API keys and stuff. So I would check that out. But for the most part, like for all of these questions, you want to go with like environment variables in general, just to make sure that your keys don't get exposed to end users and stuff like that. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Ziad. That was a great question. I can maybe add about recommending a database for React projects. I don't think there is like anything like a standard to use with React projects. It depends on the application. So of course, is your team more familiar with NoSQL versus SQL databases? That's a first question. Also, what type of app it is? If it's something like, I don't know, yeah, I won't get into too much details now, but yeah, it depends on what type of app it is. Kind of like the most popular choices are probably like Postgre or MySQL or what's it called? MongoDB, like a popular NoSQL solution. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's like a recommended way to go with recommended database to go for React apps. Nice. Okay. Now we have one more question. Actually, a couple of more questions, but we're gonna start with what do you use C# for? .NET Desktop or web? And maybe Louise, you can answer
Yeah.
that.
So for me personally, I've not used the desktop app. You can build, so for those who don't know, you can build both web application, desktop applications, and do web development with C Sharp. I personally have used it for only web development. I have not built applications with it, but it can be done. A lot of people are building desktop applications with .NET, but for me personally, it's been web development.
Nice. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that, Louise. And one more question. So C++, somebody asked about C++ being integrated with JavaScript, and it's not integrated with JavaScript at the language level. So C++ is one language, JavaScript is other language. But what you probably think of is V8, that's Chrome's engine that parses JavaScript and executes JavaScript. So V8 is written in C++. So yeah, basically Chrome can run JavaScript because of V8, which is written in C++. But technically, C++ doesn't have any direct connection with JavaScript. They're both different languages. By the way, thanks a lot for these questions, guys. We really love them. So just shoot them. There's lots of them, and yeah, we loved it a lot. Hope that we'll be able to answer all of them. But let's take a break from your questions with one of our questions, and like all of us have a kind of like perfect programming language or our favorite language, the language we use. So, what was Ziad your story in finding your first language and in finding your favorite language, and what is your favorite language?
Yeah, I would say yeah, my favorite language is definitely TypeScript right now. It's really awesome, and my story behind it was like JavaScript was my first language in general, like the one when I started learning. I went on Codecademy, and that was like the most popular course. So I went and like took that and understood how to build like really basic things with it. And then I built a lot of side projects with JavaScript, and it was a really fun language to play around with and really like understand a lot of the functionality behind it. Especially because JavaScript has so much history and there's like been so many versions and stuff like that. But then when I started like professionally working, I got introduced to TypeScript and realized that that was like the standard. Like in like last few years, a lot of newer companies were adopting a typed version of JavaScript, and that experience like kind of forced me to learn it. And yeah, it's been an awesome journey since, like learning like all the different like cool things that you can do with TypeScript. And like work the thing is, because JavaScript and TypeScript it's such a huge community, and like so many people use the language around the world, you like learn a lot pretty daily if you just work with it. Like if you build side projects or you work with it in like professional setting, you'll end up like stack overflowing a lot of random questions, and you'll like learn about different things and different ways that JavaScript handles different problems in general. So it's it's been fun. And yeah, like the cool part is it's constant. It's a constant learning process with JavaScript, which is awesome.
That's that's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to agree with you and say that JavaScript is my favorite language too. And a story how I found it. So yeah, I tried a few languages before, like C, bit of Python, but then I was using Java at one of my previous companies that was like 5, 6 years ago, and I really didn't like it. I didn't like loads of those restrictions, and I started playing around with JavaScript. Started a course around it, and I was just like, "Wow, this is so cool and simple, and like I don't know everything I wanted to do in Java, but I couldn't like I could in JavaScript." So I really love that you can, I don't know, create a function and store it to a variable and return that variable from another function and call it somewhere else. It's just like so cool. Like compared to Java, that was a bit, I don't know, not intuitive at that moment. To be honest, I didn't know anything. So yeah, but yeah, JavaScript was much better to me. What I also loved about JavaScript is that you don't need to compile it, because back then in our company, so on my machine, it took like 4 or 5 minutes to build an application. Yeah, the ones I was working on, and that's like for every single change you want to see, you need to stop your app and then rebuild it and run it again, and it takes like 4 to 5 minutes. I sometimes used to like run the app, have a toilet break, go to make myself a coffee or something, and I return back, and the app was still building. Well, with JavaScript, it's like so cool because it's basically instantly built. So yeah, love just just love JavaScript, and of course TypeScript. What Ziad was telling about, JavaScript is the core. That's why I'm mentioning JavaScript all the time. But yeah, TypeScript is just like improved JavaScript in a way, with like all the typings, and yeah, reduces a huge amount of headaches you could get just with pure JavaScript. How about you, Dweez? Do you want to share what's your favorite programming language?
Yeah, that's C sharp. I just can't. I mean, actually, I think it's hard. It's either that or Python. I like Python because it's so easy to read. It's crazy. So yeah, I think I'll go with Python on that one. By the way, it was nice to hear you explain to us how JavaScript Wizard became the JavaScript Wiz. Like it was nice. You guys should pay attention because this is it's nice. It was a nice story. But yeah, for me it's Python. I just have to. It's really easy for me. I don't know. It took C sharp spot honestly.
Nice, nice. Glad for saying that, Dweez, because I thought that we're all gonna save JavaScript, but it's good that we had at
Yeah,
least one different answer. Cool. Now let's return to your questions. There's many of them, and what are standards for front end and back end at the moment? Front end, that's a bit easier to answer. So the most popular language is JavaScript, of course, and if you're going into front end, you just need to learn JavaScript. On front end side, it's more of a question which JavaScript framework do you use, or library, as you want to put it. But I'm going to refer to programming framework and library as the same thing in this context. And the most popular is React. React is a great tool. I love React, and I would say it is the most. It's not that I would say, like, by statistic, it is the most used framework, and I would say it's the easiest to get your first job with React if you're going on front end. Other really cool solutions are Vue. So Vue is also a great framework. I personally prefer Vue over React. I love both, but I just love Vue more. And the third most popular is Angular. Although I wouldn't say it's great for breaking into tech, because usually only larger apps are built with Angular and more experienced developers work with Angular. So I would say, like, probably the best way to break into tech on front end is by learning React. But some standards are React, Vue, and Angular. Svelte is becoming a bit popular, but still the community is quite small and everything. Apparently, it's really cool. Haven't tried it out properly, but it's a really cool thing. And on the back end, that's much harder questions, because there are so many different things on backend. I know that currently the most popular backend languages are Python and Java by the number of active developers. So that is a thing. C# is widely used. Then C++ is used, for example, for gaming, or when you just need more control over systems, when you need to dig deeper. C++ is a great solution. I've heard great things about Rust too. Developers really love Rust. Go is raising too for backend development. So yeah, I would say that, like, Java, C#, Python, Go, Rust, C++. I don't know, guys, if you have any others to add to this list. Probably.
Is Ruby still popular?
Oh yeah, Ruby, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ruby is still quite popular, I would say. It definitely can come to that list of, like, used languages. It's not like any of those are outdated.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. Let's answer some other questions. And that one is it easy to move from JavaScript to TypeScript? Ziad, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty straightforward. I think what really helps is if you know, like, about an object-oriented programming language beforehand. Like, I knew Java coming in. I know JavaScript technically has, like, object-oriented fundamentals, but when you're switching from JavaScript to TypeScript, you're going to be working a lot with, like, concepts, like interfaces and types and stuff, which are, like, more closely related to if you've worked with Java classes and objects and kind of like that, how that whole system works. I think it's really helpful. But even if you don't, I think it's relatively simple. It's still the same language, by the way. Like, if you're completely unfamiliar, it just has, like, very minor, like, syntax differences that allow you to build pretty strictly typed systems. And it's mainly useful for, like, obviously just debugging, like, knowing, like, when there's a clear error in your code, but then at the same time, like, also just it's great for scalability when you're working at, like, a big company, for example. And there's people all over the company that are building, like, different functions and different classes and stuff like that. Like, if you're using somebody else's class that they built, it's helpful to have, like, everything's strictly typed, so you know exactly like what methods your object has and like what this function is expecting and stuff like that. But yeah, learning it is super easy. I wouldn't like stress about that in any way.
Thanks. Yeah, you partially answered the sub question of that question too, and that's why did they create TypeScript in the first place? And kind of the answer is almost like self-explanatory. So TypeScript means that types are added to JavaScript, because in JavaScript you don't have types, you don't have integer, you don't have float, you don't have a specific string. You cannot define like complex types. You just have basically everything is the same in JavaScript. To the same variable, you can declare a variable as a number, then redeclare it to an array or to object or string or whatever. So it's not strictly typed. TypeScript allows us to do that, and it allows us to say, okay, this will be string, and if you try to put anything else rather than string to this variable, we'll get you an error, we'll give you an error, and the app won't even compile. So it saves you from a lot of those bugs at the beginning. And as Ziad said, like as the app scales, it's really good to know like which properties your object has, which methods, and how will your, let's say that you communicate with an external API and you're trying to get user profile, user has his name on it, age, I don't know, address, some other complex objects like, I don't know, followers and users that follow him. It's really good to know how is that object formed, and not only that you know how it is formed, that object can only have, I don't know, age, name, and followers, but you also have autocomplete in your code. And when you type user dot, you can immediately see, oh, I can use age, full name, or whatever you put on that object. So yeah, for scaling, it is really a great language. Maybe it can be a bit overkill to use it on like smaller projects, because you should be fine with JavaScript if it's a really small project. But if you plan to like create a longer term project, even I built my website with TypeScript, and I love that I did it, because the more my website grows and the older it gets, like the easier for me is to add new things and not break old stuff. So yeah, definitely an industry standard, and you need to kind of like learn it if you want to get into front-end development. And nice, cool. Anyone else has anything to add about TypeScript?
No.
Okay.
I think it working with it definitely can prevent a lot of those bugs where you have to go all the way back and figure out where the problem is. I think it can save you a lot of time. That's what I have to add to it.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. We have other questions about what's the best way to learn. Some people suggest YouTube, some people TikTok. I definitely wouldn't say that TikTok and YouTube are the best ways to learn, just because you need to dive deeper on both YouTube and TikTok. You will see so many different answers from different creators and different videos with different teaching styles, and you need to have some sort of a structure. So I would always recommend, like, first thing, the best way to get into tech, if we don't say it's college, it's a boot camp, because in a boot camp, in around 6 to 9 months, you will be in that group of people who are working hard, who want to break into tech. You will have great teachers. Everything will be structured so in so many details that it's just going to be, and you're almost guaranteed to get a job after that. So I would say boot camps if you can afford it. By the way, we Practicum, we offer incredible boot camps, and like almost 90% of our students get a job within the first 6 months. So yeah, definitely bootcamp. Other ways are online courses, just so you can have that clear structure and course about like any language you want to get into. And then then YouTube and TikTok comes. Of course, our account is amazing, and we provide a lot of like great tips where to learn, how to learn, even like JavaScript things, CSS, C sharp, Python, everything. But you still need to have that roadmap and structure of, I don't know, learning JavaScript with a course in 3 months or learning it on a bootcamp. And then when you see a TikTok video or a YouTube video, it will make much more sense to you than just learning from TikTok and YouTube. Yeah, 100%. It's good that we share a lot of these tips on our channel. So yeah, feel free to follow us, because we'll tell you what to learn, how to learn, where to learn, and even like learn you. Yeah, just with our videos. And nice. So we have time for a few more questions maybe. And the one that is here now is, how long should I stay at my first front-end developer job? I'm primarily working with Vanilla.js. That's interesting. Anyone wants to answer that, or should I answer it?
I think if you're primarily using Vanilla.js, you should definitely like at least on the side to like try to stay like up to date with what's like more modern in terms of JavaScript standards, because like a lot of like the modern companies that are popping up here and there will like definitely use more than just Vanilla.js. So like I'm not saying you should leave your job right now or anything like, but more like try to stay up to date. Like it's okay to go to a job and like they're using outdated technologies. In fact, like most companies that you go to will have some sort of like outdated tech in a sense, whether it's like in their JavaScript code, their backend code, or something like that. But the most important part is that you're always staying up to date, because like tech is always changing, like outside of your job. So whether that's maybe like reading online articles, or just like even like if you really want to go above and beyond, like actually going out and like trying to use some of the new technologies in like a side project or something, that would be really helpful. So you can like when you do want to leave your job, you're like able to actually go and find other jobs that are using those modern tech stacks.
Yeah, I completely agree with Ziad. Start learning something on the side, like React probably is the best bet for you. And I'm gonna be a bit more brutal and say, like, try searching for a new job, because if your current company works with Vanilla.js, that's really outdated, and you as a person will not grow that hard, and your value overall will be lower because of that. So you need to stay up to date with latest technologies. It doesn't need to be like the latest, freshest tech ever, but working just with Vanilla.js at the moment, that's pretty outdated. So for your benefits and for your career, for your knowledge, for salary, for market value, for everything, I suggest that start learning React from the side. Start searching for other jobs. Like I'm not saying you like quit your job now. Don't do that. Like just work your job, and on the side, like start searching for better opportunities. Maybe like a general answer to that, like how long to stay at your first, not just front-end developer, but any developer job. It shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't be more than 2 years. I would even say something like 1 year, because you came there as a junior or even a pre-junior. You learned so much, and you've probably outgrown that company, and now it's the time to find better place with better technologies, with better people, with better salary, with even more learning. So the earlier you are in your career, I would say like 1 to 2 years. Switch jobs like every 1 to 2 years. Don't switch them too fast, because that's not a good thing to have on your CV. Because if you switch jobs like every 3 months, yeah, companies just don't love that, because they know, oh, he'll come and leave after 3 months. So don't do that. but every year or two, search for new opportunities. You'll meet new people, see new tech stacks, see new technologies, grow as a person, just get way more experience, and overall, like you will be valued like way more. And yeah, cool. So I think that's it for today. It was amazing having you, and you all post like so many incredible questions. I've seen that like many of you thanked us here and said that we like inspire you and teach you, and like we're here to do that. Like we want to inspire you, teach you, and we do that every Wednesday, 12:30 Eastern time. But we, because of holidays, we're skipping next week, so we will have our next live on 28th of December, last one of this year. And yep, thanks everyone for watching. Guys, do you have anything to say to our lovely audience?
Yeah, thank you for attending, and yeah, see you 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks from now.
Nice. Then yeah, Jure, thanks for coming back, and see you in 2 weeks, hopefully with some gift fights. And yep, enjoy all your days, evenings, nights, whatever. And
Thank
see you in
you.
2 weeks.
Thanks,
Cheers up.
Mom. See you.